Question 1. During the evaluation of an applicant's submission for the Ahfad University for Women entrance exam, which approach best demonstrates an understanding of the university's admission criteria and mission? Option A. Providing a personal essay that focuses on overcoming general life challenges, without referencing the specific educational opportunities offered by Ahfad University for Women. Option B. Presenting a comprehensive academic transcript highlighting high grades in all subjects, alongside a general statement of interest in higher education. Option C. Detailing specific academic achievements and extracurricular involvements that directly align with the stated goals and programs of Ahfad University for Women, as outlined in the entrance examination guidelines. Option D. Submitting a portfolio of diverse creative works without explicit connection to the university's academic disciplines. Correct answer is B. Presenting a comprehensive academic transcript highlighting high grades in all subjects, alongside a general statement of interest in higher education. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of higher education admissions within the specific context of Ahfad University for Women, adhering to its established regulatory framework and guidelines. The challenge lies in identifying the approach that best aligns with the university's mission and admission criteria, rather than simply presenting general qualifications. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between approaches that are merely compliant and those that are strategically aligned with the university's objectives. The correct approach involves demonstrating a clear understanding of the specific academic and personal attributes that Ahfad University for Women values in its prospective students, as outlined in its entrance examination guidelines. This approach is right because it directly addresses the stated objectives of the entrance exam, which is to assess suitability for admission based on the university's unique educational mission and standards. Adherence to the university's regulatory framework ensures that the applicant's submission is evaluated within the intended parameters, reflecting a genuine engagement with the institution's requirements. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on generic academic achievements without contextualizing them to Ahfad University for Women's specific programs or values fails to meet the exam's intent. This is an ethical failure, as it suggests a lack of due diligence and a superficial understanding of the institution. Another incorrect approach that emphasizes extracurricular activities that are not relevant to the university's academic or social mission demonstrates a misunderstanding of what constitutes a valuable contribution to the university community. This is a regulatory failure because it deviates from the assessment criteria established by the university's entrance examination guidelines. A third incorrect approach that relies on personal connections or appeals for special consideration, rather than merit and adherence to stated criteria, is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. It undermines the fairness and integrity of the admissions process, which is governed by established guidelines designed to ensure equal opportunity. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes understanding the specific requirements and objectives of the institution or examination. This involves thorough research into the relevant regulatory framework, guidelines, and mission statements. Subsequently, applicants should align their responses and presentations directly with these established criteria, demonstrating a clear and reasoned connection between their qualifications and the institution's expectations. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are based on merit, fairness, and adherence to established standards. Question 2. The control framework reveals that Ahfad University for Women's Admissions Committee has established clear academic and personal criteria for all prospective students. An applicant presents a compelling case for admission, citing extenuating personal circumstances that may have impacted her previous academic record, but she meets the minimum academic threshold. The admissions officer is aware of the university's commitment to supporting women's education and fostering a diverse student body. How should the admissions officer proceed to ensure adherence to the university's control framework while considering the applicant's situation? Option A. Prioritize the applicant for admission due to her compelling personal circumstances, as this aligns with the university's broader mission of supporting women's education. Option B. Advise the applicant to reapply in a future cycle after she has had more time to improve her academic record, regardless of her extenuating circumstances. Option C. Recommend the applicant for a special interview to assess her potential beyond her academic record, without strictly adhering to the established criteria for this specific case. Option D. Evaluate the applicant solely based on the stated academic and personal criteria, documenting any deviations from the norm and seeking committee approval for any exceptions. The correct answer is D. Evaluate the applicant solely based on the stated academic and personal criteria, documenting any deviations from the norm and seeking committee approval for any exceptions. Explanation. The control framework reveals the critical importance of adhering to the Ahfad University for women's specific admission policies and procedures. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the admissions officer to balance the university's established guidelines with a potential candidate's unique circumstances, ensuring fairness and integrity in the admission process. A deep understanding of the university's regulatory framework is paramount to avoid bias and uphold the principles of equal opportunity. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the candidate's application against the Ahfad University for women's stated admission criteria, as outlined in its official prospectus and internal policy documents. This approach is right because it directly aligns with the university's regulatory framework, which mandates objective evaluation based on predefined standards. Adherence to these established rules ensures transparency, consistency, and fairness for all applicants, preventing arbitrary decisions and maintaining the credibility of the admission process. An incorrect approach that relies on personal interpretation or external influence would fail to uphold the university's regulatory framework. For instance, prioritizing a candidate based on personal acquaintance or perceived potential without strict adherence to the documented criteria violates the principle of objective assessment. This could lead to accusations of favoritism or discrimination, undermining the university's commitment to merit-based admissions and potentially leading to legal challenges or reputational damage. Another incorrect approach would be to deviate from the established process by creating ad hoc criteria for this specific candidate, which bypasses the established governance and control mechanisms designed to ensure equitable treatment of all applicants. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making process that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the university's admission policies and guidelines. They must then objectively assess each application against these criteria, documenting the rationale for their decisions. When faced with ambiguous situations or unique circumstances, professionals should consult with relevant university authorities or committees to ensure decisions are made in accordance with the spirit and letter of the regulations, rather than relying on personal judgment or external pressures. Question 3. Performance analysis shows that a candidate for the Ahfad University for Women Entrance Exam has submitted an application that appears to meet most, but not all, of the stated academic prerequisites. The examination committee is considering how to proceed. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the absolute priority of following only the regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines specified for the Ahfad University for Women Entrance Exam? Option A. Strictly adhere to the documented admission prerequisites as outlined in the official Ahfad University for Women Entrance Exam guidelines, and if the candidate does not fully meet them, their application cannot proceed to the examination stage. Option B. Expedite the review process by allowing the candidate to sit for the entrance exam, while a secondary review of their qualifications is conducted post-exam, prioritizing the opportunity for the candidate to demonstrate their abilities. Option C. Consider the candidate's potential based on anecdotal evidence of success in similar programs at other institutions, assuming the university's intent is to admit promising students regardless of minor discrepancies in prerequisites. Option D. Interpret the academic prerequisites flexibly, allowing the candidate to proceed if the committee believes their overall profile suggests they can succeed, even if specific requirements are not met, to encourage a diverse applicant pool. The correct answer is A. Strictly adhere to the documented admission prerequisites as outlined in the official Ahfad University for Women Entrance Exam guidelines, and if the candidate does not fully meet them, their application cannot proceed to the examination stage. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an understanding of the specific admission policies and ethical considerations relevant to Ahfad University for Women's Entrance Examination. The challenge lies in accurately interpreting and applying these guidelines to a hypothetical situation, ensuring fairness and adherence to the university's stated objectives. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between approaches that uphold the integrity of the admissions process and those that might inadvertently compromise it. The correct approach involves a thorough review of Ahfad University for women's official admission regulations and any accompanying ethical guidelines for the entrance examination. This approach is right because it directly addresses the core requirement of adhering to the specified regulatory framework. By consulting these official documents, one ensures that any decision or interpretation is grounded in the university's established rules and principles, thereby upholding the integrity and fairness of the admissions process. This aligns with the ethical obligation to act within the bounds of institutional policy and to treat all prospective students equitably according to those policies. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on general best practices for university admissions without referencing Ahfad University for women's specific regulations fails, because it ignores the absolute priority of adhering to the specified jurisdiction. This could lead to decisions that are not compliant with the university's unique requirements, potentially creating grounds for appeals or undermining the validity of the examination process. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of processing over meticulous adherence to the examination guidelines is professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a disregard for the importance of accuracy and fairness in admissions, potentially leading to errors that could disadvantage applicants or violate the spirit of the examination. It prioritizes efficiency over compliance and ethical conduct. A further incorrect approach that involves making assumptions about the intent of the regulations without consulting the official documentation is also flawed. Assumptions can lead to misinterpretations and inconsistent application of rules, which is detrimental to a fair and transparent admissions process. It bypasses the necessary due diligence required to understand and apply the regulations correctly. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Identifying the specific regulatory framework governing the situation, in this case, Ahfad University for women's entrance exam regulations. 2. Thoroughly reviewing and understanding all relevant rules, policies, and ethical guidelines. 3. Applying these regulations consistently and impartially to all cases. 4. Seeking clarification from appropriate authorities if any aspect of the regulations is unclear. 5. Documenting the decision-making process to ensure transparency and accountability. Question 4. The control framework reveals that applicants for the Ahfad University for Women entrance exam are expected to prepare ethically and responsibly. Which of the following approaches to preparation best aligns with these expectations and the principles of academic integrity? Option A. Focusing exclusively on memorizing answers from past examination papers without engaging with the underlying concepts or syllabus. Option B. Proactively seeking out and studying publicly available past examination papers and general syllabus outlines to understand the scope and format of the exam. Option C. Attempting to acquire specific, non-public examination questions or answers from any source prior to the official examination date. Option D. Collaborating with other applicants to share any study materials that are explicitly designated as confidential or proprietary to the examination process. The correct answer is B. Proactively seeking out and studying publicly available past examination papers and general syllabus outlines to understand the scope and format of the exam. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of a university's entrance examination control framework, specifically in relation to the ethical conduct expected of candidates. The challenge lies in distinguishing between legitimate preparation methods and those that could be construed as unethical or a breach of the examination's integrity. Careful judgment is required to identify the approach that aligns with academic integrity and the specific guidelines of Ahfad University for women. The correct approach involves proactive and ethical preparation that respects the examination's integrity. This means engaging with publicly available information about the examination's scope and format, and utilizing general study resources. This approach is ethically sound and professionally appropriate because it adheres to the implicit and explicit expectations of academic honesty. It demonstrates a commitment to fair competition and personal merit, which are core values in any educational institution, including Ahfad University for Women. Such preparation avoids any action that could be interpreted as seeking an unfair advantage or compromising the examination's validity. An incorrect approach that involves attempting to obtain specific, non-public examination questions or answers before the exam is a direct violation of academic integrity. This action constitutes an attempt to gain an unfair advantage and undermines the principle of merit-based assessment. Ethically, it is dishonest and breaches the trust placed in candidates by the examination board. It also carries significant regulatory implications, as universities typically have strict policies against cheating and academic misconduct, which can lead to disqualification and other disciplinary actions. Another incorrect approach, such as colluding with other applicants to share study materials that are explicitly designated as confidential or proprietary to the examination process, is also professionally unacceptable. Collaboration in general study can be beneficial. Sharing restricted information crosses ethical boundaries. This action not only compromises the integrity of the examination, but also fosters an environment of unfairness. Regulatory frameworks for university admissions universally condemn such practices, viewing them as a form of academic dishonesty. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on memorizing past papers without understanding the underlying concepts, while not as overtly unethical as obtaining leaked questions, can still be problematic. If the university's framework emphasizes conceptual understanding and application, this approach might not adequately prepare the candidate and could be seen as gaming the system rather than genuine learning. While not a direct ethical breach in itself, it fails to align with the spirit of a comprehensive entrance examination designed to assess a candidate's readiness for higher education. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a clear adherence to principles of honesty, fairness, and respect for established rules and guidelines. Professionals should always seek to understand the specific regulations and ethical expectations of any assessment or examination they are undertaking. When in doubt, it is always best to err on the side of caution and choose the most transparent and ethically defensible course of action. This involves prioritizing genuine learning and preparation over any shortcuts that could compromise integrity. Question 5. The control framework reveals that Ahfad University for Women entrance exam applicants are expected to demonstrate a commitment to academic integrity. Considering this, which of the following approaches best reflects the ethical and professional conduct expected of an applicant during the examination process? Option A. Seeking unauthorized assistance or using prohibited materials during the examination to improve performance. Option B. Presenting fabricated or exaggerated academic achievements and experiences to enhance one's application. Option C. Focusing solely on memorizing answers to potential questions without understanding the underlying concepts. Option D. Honestly assessing one's preparation and acknowledging areas requiring further study while committing to diligent learning. The correct answer is D. Honestly assessing one's preparation and acknowledging areas requiring further study while committing to diligent learning. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct, which are paramount for admission into Ahfad University for Women. The university's entrance exam aims to assess not just academic knowledge, but also the applicant's commitment to honesty and fairness in their academic pursuits. The challenge lies in discerning between genuine understanding and the temptation to present unearned credentials, which undermines the very purpose of an entrance examination. Careful judgment is required to identify the approach that aligns with the university's values and the ethical standards expected of its students. The correct approach involves an applicant honestly reflecting on their preparation and acknowledging any areas where further study is needed. This demonstrates self-awareness, integrity, and a commitment to genuine learning. This approach is ethically justified as it upholds the principle of honesty, a cornerstone of academic integrity. It aligns with the implicit understanding that entrance exams are a measure of an individual's current capabilities and potential for growth, not a test of fabricated qualifications. By admitting to areas of weakness, the applicant signals a willingness to engage with the learning process constructively, which is a desirable trait for any student. An incorrect approach that involves fabricating or exaggerating academic achievements or experiences is ethically unacceptable. This failure directly violates the principle of honesty and constitutes academic dishonesty. It misrepresents the applicant's true capabilities, potentially leading to placement in a program for which they are not adequately prepared, thus setting them up for academic failure and devaluing the achievements of genuinely qualified candidates. Another incorrect approach that involves seeking unauthorized assistance or using prohibited materials during the exam is also a severe ethical failure. This undermines the fairness and validity of the examination process. It is a direct breach of the rules and regulations governing the entrance exam, demonstrating a lack of respect for the institution and its assessment procedures. Such actions are not only unethical, but also illegal in many contexts, leading to disqualification and potential future repercussions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a commitment to integrity, honesty, and adherence to established rules and guidelines. Applicants should approach any assessment with a clear understanding of the expectations and ethical boundaries. When faced with a challenge, the professional approach is to seek clarification, admit limitations honestly, and commit to diligent preparation rather than resorting to dishonest shortcuts. This builds a foundation of trust and credibility, essential for academic and professional success. Question 6. System analysis indicates that during the Ahfad University for Women entrance examination, an applicant encounters a question they are unsure about. The applicant notices that another candidate nearby appears to be discreetly consulting a small, folded piece of paper. Considering the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment, which of the following represents the most ethically sound and professionally appropriate course of action for the applicant? Option A. Discreetly try to signal the other candidate to share their information, believing that mutual assistance is beneficial. Option B. Ignore the observed behavior and focus solely on their own exam, assuming it is not their responsibility to police others. Option C. Immediately report the observed behavior to the invigilator, providing specific details about the other candidate's actions. Option D. Discreetly attempt to glance at the other candidate's paper to find the answer, rationalizing that it is a common practice. The correct answer is D. Discreetly attempt to glance at the other candidate's paper to find the answer, rationalizing that it is a common practice. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the core principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct expected of students at Ahfad University for Women, specifically within the context of an entrance examination. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and ethically sound response when faced with a situation that could compromise these principles. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between actions that uphold academic standards and those that could be construed as dishonest or exploitative. The correct approach involves recognizing the university's commitment to academic integrity and the importance of original work. This approach prioritizes ethical conduct by declining to engage in any form of academic dishonesty, such as using unauthorized materials or seeking external assistance. This aligns with the fundamental regulatory framework of any educational institution, including Ahfad University for Women, which mandates honesty and fairness in all academic endeavors. Ethically, it demonstrates respect for the examination process and the equal opportunity afforded to all applicants. An incorrect approach that involves attempting to use unauthorized notes or external assistance during the exam represents a direct violation of academic integrity policies. This is ethically unacceptable as it constitutes cheating, undermining the fairness of the assessment, and devaluing the achievements of honest applicants. It also demonstrates a lack of preparedness and a willingness to compromise ethical standards for personal gain, which is contrary to the values expected of students. Another incorrect approach, such as seeking to bribe an invigilator for answers, is not only a severe breach of academic integrity, but also a criminal offense in many jurisdictions, involving corruption and dishonesty. This action fundamentally corrupts the examination process and demonstrates a complete disregard for ethical principles and the rule of law. It creates an unfair advantage and undermines the credibility of the entire admission system. A further incorrect approach, such as claiming to have prior knowledge of the exam questions without substantiation, while not directly engaging in cheating during the exam, still raises serious ethical concerns, can be interpreted as an attempt to gain an unfair advantage through potentially misleading statements or by implying privileged access, which can create an uneven playing field for other applicants. This approach lacks transparency and can damage the reputation of the university and the integrity of its admissions process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a clear understanding of the institution's academic integrity policy, a commitment to ethical conduct, and the courage to act with honesty. Applicants should always prioritize fair play and demonstrate their genuine knowledge and abilities. When faced with a dilemma, they should reflect on the potential consequences of their actions, both ethically and in terms of academic standing, and choose the path that upholds the highest standards of integrity. Question 7. The control framework reveals inconsistencies in the marking of the Ahfad University for women entrance examination, with some examiners reportedly applying subjective interpretations of essay questions. Which approach best addresses this situation while adhering strictly to the university's regulatory framework and guidelines? Option A. Focus on the most frequently cited subjective interpretations and issue a general advisory to all examiners to be more consistent without a detailed review of individual marking. Option B. Prioritize meeting the university's admission targets by adjusting the marking thresholds based on the overall performance of the candidate pool, irrespective of individual marking discrepancies. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the examination papers, comparing the application of marking criteria against the official marking rubric and documented procedures, and identify any examiners whose marking deviates significantly from the established standards for further review and retraining. Option D. Gather informal feedback from senior faculty members regarding their general impressions of the examination's difficulty and the quality of student responses to address the perceived inconsistencies. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review of the examination papers, comparing the application of marking criteria against the official marking rubric and documented procedures, and identify any examiners whose marking deviates significantly from the established standards for further review and retraining. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to fairly assess candidates. The pressure to admit a certain number of students can create an environment where shortcuts or biased evaluations might be tempting. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the admission process is both effective and ethical. Adhering strictly to Ahfad University for women's established entrance exam regulations. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the examination materials and procedures against the documented control framework of Ahfad University for women. This includes verifying that all assessment criteria are clearly defined, that the marking scheme is applied consistently, and that any deviations from standard procedure are properly authorized and documented. This approach is right because it directly upholds the university's own regulatory framework, ensuring fairness, transparency, and accountability in the admissions process. Adhering to the established control framework is a fundamental ethical and regulatory obligation for any educational institution. An incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or informal feedback from examiners without cross-referencing the official control framework fails to uphold the university's standards. This can lead to inconsistent application of rules and potentially biased outcomes, undermining the integrity of the entrance exam. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on the perceived difficulty of the exam, without considering the established assessment objectives and criteria outlined in the control framework, ignores the core purpose of the examination. This can result in subjective judgments that do not accurately reflect a candidate's suitability for admission, according to the university's defined standards. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes meeting admission quotas over adherence to the control framework is a direct violation of regulatory and ethical principles. This can lead to the admission of unqualified candidates and the rejection of deserving ones, compromising the academic standards of Ahfad University for women. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the relevant regulatory framework and internal control guidelines. They should then objectively assess the situation against these established standards, seeking clarification or additional information if necessary. Any proposed actions must be justifiable within the framework and documented appropriately. When faced with pressure or conflicting priorities, professionals must prioritize adherence to the established rules and ethical principles, escalating concerns if necessary to ensure the integrity of the process. Question 8. The control framework reveals that the Ahfad University for Women entrance exam aims to select candidates based on academic merit and potential for success. Which of the following approaches best aligns with this framework when evaluating a pool of applicants? Option A. A systematic evaluation of each applicant's academic transcripts, standardized test scores, and any supplementary academic achievements against the defined entry requirements. Option B. Giving preference to applicants who demonstrate significant financial hardship, even if their academic performance is below the standard threshold. Option C. Selecting candidates based on recommendations from faculty members who have personal knowledge of the applicants without a standardized assessment. Option D. Prioritizing applicants who express a strong desire to attend the university, regardless of their academic qualifications. Correct answer is A. A systematic evaluation of each applicant's academic transcripts, standardized test scores, and any supplementary academic achievements against the defined entry requirements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of university admissions, specifically as they relate to fairness and adherence to established guidelines. The challenge lies in discerning which approach best aligns with the stated objectives of the Ahfad University for Women entrance exams control framework, which implicitly prioritizes merit and equitable opportunity within its specific regulatory context. Careful judgment is required to avoid biases or misinterpretations of the framework's intent. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of all submitted applications against the established academic criteria and any specific requirements outlined by the Ahfad University for Women entrance exam. This method is right because it directly upholds the principle of meritocracy, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on the same objective standards. This aligns with the ethical imperative of fairness and the regulatory guideline of consistent application of admission policies, preventing arbitrary selection and promoting equal opportunity for all qualified applicants. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the applicant's stated financial need without a thorough academic assessment fails to adhere to the primary purpose of an entrance exam, which is to identify academically capable students. This approach risks overlooking more qualified candidates and could be seen as a deviation from the established merit-based selection process, potentially violating the spirit of the university's admission framework. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes applicants from specific geographic regions or with particular social connections, irrespective of their academic standing, directly contravenes the principles of equal opportunity and merit. Such a method introduces bias and undermines the integrity of the selection process, failing to meet the regulatory expectation of a transparent and fair evaluation. A further incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or personal impressions of an applicant's potential, rather than objective performance metrics, is also professionally unacceptable. This subjective method lacks the rigor and consistency required by any controlled admission process and opens the door to unconscious bias, failing to align with the need for objective and verifiable assessment. Professionals tasked with admission should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and guidelines. This involves identifying the core objectives of the admission process, such as academic excellence and equitable access. Subsequently, they must develop and apply a standardized evaluation methodology that objectively measures candidates against these objectives. Regular review and calibration of this methodology are crucial to ensure ongoing fairness and compliance. Question 9. Investigation of the Admissions Committee's process for evaluating applications to Ahfad University for Women, considering a scenario where an applicant presents strong extracurricular achievements but has a slightly lower than average score on a required standardized test, and the committee is under pressure to meet enrollment targets. Which approach best upholds the university's commitment to academic excellence and fair admissions? Option A. Seek informal endorsements from influential individuals who know the applicant to bolster their application and justify admission, bypassing a strict adherence to the documented criteria. Option B. Prioritize the applicant's demonstrated leadership in extracurricular activities and immediate acceptance to meet enrollment targets, assuming their potential will allow them to catch up academically. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's entire application, including academic transcripts, extracurricular activities, and any supplementary materials, to assess their overall potential and suitability for the program, while ensuring the standardized test score is considered within the context of other qualifications and university-defined acceptable ranges for borderline cases. Option D. Focus primarily on the applicant's personal circumstances and the potential impact of not being admitted, using this as the main justification for admission despite the lower standardized test score. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive review of the applicant's entire application, including academic transcripts, extracurricular activities, and any supplementary materials, to assess their overall potential and suitability for the program, while ensuring the standardized test score is considered within the context of other qualifications and university-defined acceptable ranges for borderline cases. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the need to balance the university's commitment to academic integrity with the practicalities of managing admissions under potentially high demand. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring fairness and adherence to established admission criteria, while also being responsive to the unique circumstances of applicants. Careful judgment is required to avoid both arbitrary exclusion and the compromise of academic standards. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of all submitted documentation against the published admission criteria. This approach is professionally sound because it directly aligns with the principles of fairness, transparency, and meritocracy that underpin university admissions. Adhering to established criteria ensures that all applicants are evaluated on a consistent and equitable basis, minimizing the risk of bias or favoritism. This is ethically mandated by the university's own stated policies and the broader professional expectation of impartial evaluation in academic selection processes. An approach that prioritizes immediate acceptance based on perceived potential without full verification of qualifications fails to uphold academic standards and can lead to the admission of unqualified candidates. This is an ethical failure as it undermines the integrity of the university's academic programs and can create an unfair advantage over applicants who have met all requirements. It also violates the university's own stated admission policies. An approach that focuses solely on the applicant's personal circumstances, even if compelling, without a rigorous assessment of their academic preparedness, is also ethically problematic. While empathy is important, admissions decisions must be grounded in the ability to succeed in the academic program. This approach risks admitting students who may struggle academically, potentially leading to higher dropout rates and a dilution of academic quality, which is contrary to the university's educational mission. Furthermore, an approach that involves seeking informal recommendations or endorsements outside the established application process introduces an element of subjectivity and potential bias. This can circumvent the transparent and merit-based evaluation system, leading to perceptions of unfairness and potentially compromising the integrity of the admissions committee's decision-making. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding and strict adherence to the university's published admission criteria. This includes a systematic review of all required documents and qualifications. When exceptional circumstances arise, the process should involve a defined protocol for handling such cases, which might include seeking additional information or clarification from the applicant, but always within the framework of the established criteria. Transparency in the process and documentation of all decisions are crucial to maintaining trust and accountability. Question 10. The efficiency study reveals that a significant number of applicants to Ahfad University for women's undergraduate programs are being admitted based on recommendations from influential community members, even when their academic profiles do not fully meet the published entry requirements. The admissions committee is considering how to address this trend. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of fair and merit-based admissions for Ahfad University for women? Option A. Allow individual committee members to exercise their discretion in admitting candidates based on their personal judgment of potential, even if it deviates from the established academic criteria. Option B. Prioritize applicants who have strong personal recommendations from respected individuals within the community, even if their academic qualifications are slightly below the stated minimum. Option C. Implement a quota system that reserves a certain percentage of admissions for candidates recommended by influential figures, regardless of their academic standing. Option D. Strictly adhere to the published academic entry requirements for all applicants, ensuring that admission is based solely on documented academic achievements and standardized test scores, while maintaining a transparent process for evaluating supplementary materials. The correct answer is D. Strictly adhere to the published academic entry requirements for all applicants, ensuring that admission is based solely on documented academic achievements and standardized test scores, while maintaining a transparent process for evaluating supplementary materials. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's stated commitment to academic integrity and the potential for a flawed admissions process to undermine this commitment. The admissions committee members are entrusted with upholding the university's standards, and their decisions must be based on objective criteria and fair evaluation, not on personal biases or external pressures. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the admissions process is equitable and that all applicants are assessed on their merits, in accordance with Ahfad University for women's established admission policies. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of each applicant's academic record, standardized test scores, and any supplementary materials, strictly adhering to the published admission criteria. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of fairness and meritocracy expected in academic admissions. It ensures that decisions are transparent, defensible, and free from undue influence, thereby upholding the integrity of the university's selection process and its reputation. An incorrect approach that prioritizes personal recommendations over documented qualifications fails to adhere to the university's established admission criteria. This introduces subjectivity and potential bias, undermining the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants. It also risks admitting students who may not meet the academic standards required for success at Ahfad University for women, potentially leading to higher attrition rates and a dilution of academic rigor. Another incorrect approach that involves overlooking minor discrepancies in application documents to accommodate a favored candidate is ethically problematic. This constitutes a breach of trust and a deviation from the established procedures, which are designed to ensure a standardized and fair evaluation for all. Such actions can lead to accusations of favoritism and discrimination, damaging the university's credibility and creating a perception of an unfair admission system. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a commitment to transparency, fairness, and adherence to established policies. Admissions committee members must prioritize objective evidence and establish criteria over personal opinions or external pressures. When faced with ambiguity or potential conflicts of interest, seeking clarification from senior university officials or the admissions department is crucial. The ultimate goal is to ensure that the admissions process reflects the university's values and academic standards, serving the best interests of both the institution and its prospective students. Question 11. Stakeholder feedback indicates potential inconsistencies in the evaluation of applications for the Ahfad University for women's undergraduate programs, raising concerns about fairness and equity. Which of the following approaches best addresses these concerns while upholding the university's commitment to academic excellence and ethical admissions practices? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the admissions criteria, evaluation rubrics, and training materials for admissions officers to identify and address any potential biases, ensuring a standardized and objective assessment process. Option B. Implement minor adjustments to the application form's language to appear more inclusive, while maintaining the existing evaluation methods and criteria. Option C. Focus solely on addressing individual complaints received from applicants, without investigating the broader admissions process for systemic issues. Option D. Issue a general statement to all stakeholders assuring them that the admissions process is fair and unbiased, without undertaking any specific review or making any procedural changes. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive review of the admissions criteria, evaluation rubrics, and training materials for admissions officers to identify and address any potential biases, ensuring a standardized and objective assessment process. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to address potential biases in the admissions process, as highlighted by stakeholder feedback. The admissions committee must navigate the delicate task of reviewing applications fairly and equitably, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated based on merit and suitability for the program, without undue influence from personal characteristics or external pressures. Adherence to Ahfad University for Women's established admission policies and ethical guidelines is paramount. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the admissions process to identify and mitigate any potential biases. This entails a thorough examination of the criteria used for evaluation, the training provided to admissions officers, and the mechanisms for handling appeals or concerns. By focusing on objective assessment methods and ensuring transparency, the university upholds its commitment to providing equal opportunities to all aspiring students, aligning with the principles of fairness and meritocracy that are fundamental to academic institutions. This approach directly addresses the stakeholder feedback by proactively seeking to improve the fairness of the admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the stakeholder feedback without investigation. This demonstrates a lack of responsiveness to concerns raised by the university community and fails to acknowledge the potential for systemic issues within the admissions process. Ethically, it is important to take all feedback seriously, especially when it pertains to fairness and equity. Another incorrect approach would be to implement superficial changes without a deep understanding of the root causes of the perceived bias. For example, merely changing the wording of application questions without altering the evaluation rubric or training would likely be ineffective and could be seen as a disingenuous attempt to address the concerns. This fails to demonstrate a genuine commitment to improving the admissions process and may lead to continued dissatisfaction. A further incorrect approach would be to focus solely on anecdotal evidence without a structured review. While individual experiences are important, a comprehensive assessment requires a systematic analysis of the entire admissions process, including data and procedural reviews, to identify patterns and implement effective solutions. Relying only on isolated incidents may lead to misdiagnosis of the problem and ineffective interventions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a structured approach. First, acknowledging and validating the feedback received. Second, initiating a thorough and objective review of the relevant policies and procedures. Third, identifying specific areas for improvement based on evidence. Fourth, developing and implementing targeted solutions. And finally, establishing mechanisms for ongoing monitoring and evaluation to ensure sustained fairness and effectiveness. Question 12. When evaluating an applicant's suitability for admission to Ahfad University for Women, which approach best demonstrates an understanding of the university's specific admission requirements and educational mission? Option A. Presenting a general overview of the applicant's academic strengths and extracurricular involvement without specific reference to Ahfad University for Women's unique offerings. Option B. Comparing the admission standards of Ahfad University for Women to those of other universities in Sudan, highlighting perceived similarities or differences. Option C. Articulating how the applicant's academic achievements and future goals align with the specific programs and stated mission of Ahfad University for Women. Option D. Discussing the applicant's financial preparedness for university education, as this is a common factor in all university admissions. The correct answer is C. Articulating how the applicant's academic achievements and future goals align with the specific programs and stated mission of Ahfad University for Women. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of higher education admissions within the specific context of Ahfad University for Women, without resorting to generic or external comparative frameworks. The core of the challenge lies in identifying the approach that aligns with the university's stated mission and admission policies, which are implicitly understood to be the governing framework for this entrance exam. The correct approach involves focusing on the applicant's demonstrated understanding of the university's specific admission criteria and its unique educational mission. This is justified because entrance exams are designed to assess an applicant's suitability for a particular institution by requiring the applicant to articulate how their qualifications and aspirations align with Ahfad University for Women's specific goals and values. The question probes for a tailored and informed response, reflecting genuine interest and preparedness for the institution's environment. This aligns with the ethical principle of fair and transparent assessment, ensuring that applicants are evaluated on criteria relevant to the university's objectives. An incorrect approach that relies on comparing Ahfad University for Women to other institutions, even within the same country, fails because it shifts the focus away from the specific requirements and ethos of Ahfad. It demonstrates a lack of focused research into the university itself and suggests an assumption that admission criteria are universally interchangeable, which is rarely the case. It also risks introducing irrelevant comparisons that do not serve the purpose of assessing suitability for Ahfad. Another incorrect approach that focuses on general academic merit without reference to the university's specific programs or mission is also flawed. While academic merit is important, it is insufficient on its own. Universities, especially specialized ones like Ahfad University for Women, seek applicants who not only possess academic potential, but also align with their specific educational philosophy and community. This approach fails to demonstrate an understanding of what makes Ahfad unique and why the applicant is a good fit for this particular institution. The professional reasoning process for such a situation involves prioritizing information directly relevant to the institution in question. Applicants should be trained to research the specific mission, values, academic programs, and admission requirements of the university they are applying to. The decision-making framework should involve identifying the core purpose of the assessment, evaluating fit for Ahfad, and selecting the response that best addresses this purpose, demonstrating an understanding of the institution's unique context. Question 13. The control framework reveals that the Ahfad University for Women entrance examination process aims to identify candidates who will thrive academically and contribute to the university's mission. When evaluating an applicant's suitability, which of the following approaches best aligns with these principles and the university's regulatory environment? Option A. Evaluating applicants primarily on their perceived ability to attract external financial sponsorship for their studies, irrespective of academic merit. Option B. Prioritizing applicants based on their family's social standing and connections within the community. Option C. Relying on stereotypes about women's aptitude in certain academic fields to determine their suitability for specific programs. Option D. A comprehensive assessment of the applicant's academic record, extracurricular activities, and personal statement, focusing on her potential to succeed at the university and contribute to its mission of empowering women. The correct answer is D. A comprehensive assessment of the applicant's academic record, extracurricular activities, and personal statement, focusing on her potential to succeed at the university and contribute to its mission of empowering women. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of university admissions, specifically as they relate to the Ahfad University for Women's unique mission and regulatory environment. The challenge lies in discerning which approach best aligns with the university's commitment to empowering women and its adherence to Sudanese educational regulations, without resorting to superficial or discriminatory interpretations. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is both ethically sound and legally compliant within the specified jurisdiction. The correct approach involves a holistic review of the applicant's academic record, extracurricular achievements, and personal statement, with a particular emphasis on how these elements demonstrate her potential to succeed at Ahfad University for Women and contribute to its mission. This approach is justified by the general principles of fair admissions and the specific mandate of Ahfad University for Women to provide educational opportunities for women. It aligns with the ethical imperative to assess candidates based on merit and potential, rather than on external factors that could lead to discrimination. Furthermore, it implicitly adheres to Sudanese educational laws that govern university admissions by focusing on academic suitability and institutional objectives. An incorrect approach that prioritizes solely on the applicant's family background or marital status would be ethically unacceptable, as it introduces discriminatory criteria unrelated to academic merit or the university's mission. Such an approach would violate the principle of equal opportunity and could contravene Sudanese anti-discrimination laws, if applicable to university admissions. Another incorrect approach that focuses exclusively on the applicant's perceived ability to secure financial sponsorship, without considering her academic qualifications or the university's financial aid policies, is also flawed. This approach prioritizes financial considerations over academic potential and could lead to the exclusion of otherwise qualified candidates, potentially conflicting with the university's commitment to accessibility and its own financial aid regulations. Finally, An approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or stereotypes about women's academic capabilities would be a gross ethical failure, undermining the very purpose of an institution like Ahfad University for Women and violating principles of fairness and respect. Professionals involved in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the institution's mission, values, and governing regulations. This framework should include clearly defined admission criteria that are objective, transparent, and non-discriminatory. Applicants should be evaluated based on a comprehensive assessment of their academic achievements, potential for growth, and alignment with the university's objectives. Regular training on ethical admissions practices and relevant legal frameworks is crucial to ensure consistent and fair application of these principles. Question 14. Analysis of a hypothetical applicant's profile for the Ahfad University for Women entrance exam reveals strong academic records and a compelling personal statement, but a slightly below-average score on the entrance examination itself. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of fair and effective university admissions within the context of the Ahfad University for Women entrance exam framework? Option A. Reject the applicant solely based on the entrance exam score being below the average. Option B. Recommend the applicant for a conditional offer contingent on achieving a higher score in a subsequent assessment, without considering other qualifications. Option C. Advise the applicant to seek a tutor to improve their entrance exam score before reapplying, without reviewing their other application materials. Option D. Offer admission based on a comprehensive review of academic records, personal statement, and entrance exam score, giving due weight to all components. The correct answer is D. Offer admission based on a comprehensive review of academic records, personal statement, and entrance exam score, giving due weight to all components. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of higher education admissions, specifically within the context of Ahfad University for Women's entrance exam framework. The challenge lies in discerning the most appropriate and ethically sound approach to a hypothetical admission scenario, ensuring alignment with the university's stated objectives and regulatory guidelines for entrance examinations. Careful judgment is required to avoid biases and to uphold fairness and meritocracy in the selection process. The correct approach involves prioritizing a holistic review of the applicant's qualifications, considering a range of factors beyond a single test score. This aligns with the general principles of university admissions, which aim to identify candidates who will succeed academically and contribute positively to the university community. For Ahfad University for Women, this would translate to evaluating academic records, personal statements, and any supplementary materials that demonstrate potential, in conjunction with the entrance exam results. This approach is ethically sound as it promotes fairness and equal opportunity, ensuring that diverse talents and backgrounds are considered, and it is consistent with the spirit of a comprehensive entrance examination designed to assess readiness for higher education. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the entrance exam score, disregarding other aspects of the applicant's profile, fails to acknowledge the multifaceted nature of academic success. This approach risks overlooking promising candidates who may excel in other areas or have overcome specific challenges. Ethically, it can be seen as overly rigid and potentially discriminatory if the exam itself does not fully capture an applicant's potential. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes anecdotal evidence or personal recommendations over objective academic criteria is also professionally unacceptable. While recommendations can offer valuable insights, they are subjective and can be influenced by personal relationships, potentially introducing bias. Relying heavily on such factors undermines the principle of merit-based selection and can lead to unfair outcomes. A further incorrect approach that involves seeking external influence or special consideration for an applicant deviates from ethical admissions practices. This undermines the integrity of the examination process and the university's commitment to fair selection. It creates an uneven playing field and erodes trust in the admission system. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's admissions policy and the specific regulations governing its entrance examinations. Applicants should be assessed against established criteria with a balanced consideration of all submitted materials. Transparency and fairness should be paramount, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated equitably. In cases of ambiguity or complex profiles, a review by a committee or senior admissions personnel, adhering strictly to established guidelines, is advisable. Question 15. The control framework reveals that the Ahfad University for Women entrance exam aims to identify candidates who will not only succeed academically, but also embody the university's commitment to empowering women. Which of the following approaches best aligns with this objective and the principles of a fair entrance examination? Option A. A strict reliance on the highest scores achieved on a single standardized academic aptitude test, irrespective of other applicant attributes. Option B. A comprehensive evaluation considering academic transcripts, standardized test scores, and a personal statement that articulates the applicant's understanding of and commitment to the university's mission. Option C. An admissions process heavily influenced by the applicant's family background and social standing within the community. Option D. Prioritizing applicants based on the number of extracurricular activities they have participated in, without regard for academic performance or mission alignment. The correct answer is B. A comprehensive evaluation considering academic transcripts, standardized test scores, and a personal statement that articulates the applicant's understanding of and commitment to the university's mission. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of university admissions within the specific regulatory context of Ahfad University for Women. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate method for assessing an applicant's suitability, balancing academic merit with the university's unique mission and values, all while adhering to the established entrance exam guidelines. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is both fair and effective in identifying candidates who will thrive at Ahfad. The correct approach involves a holistic assessment that considers academic performance alongside an understanding of the applicant's alignment with the university's mission. This is justified by the implicit regulatory framework of a university entrance exam, which aims to select candidates who are not only academically capable, but also likely to contribute positively to the university community and its specific ethos. The Ahfad University for Women entrance exam, by its very nature, suggests a focus on empowering women, and therefore, assessing an applicant's potential to benefit from and contribute to such an environment is paramount. This approach aligns with the ethical responsibility of an educational institution to admit students who are a good fit for its programs and values. An approach that solely focuses on standardized test scores, without considering other factors, fails to acknowledge the broader objectives of a university education and the specific mission of Ahfad. This is a regulatory failure because it neglects the comprehensive evaluation expected in university admissions, potentially overlooking candidates with strong potential who may not excel in a single, narrow metric. It also represents an ethical failure by not fully considering the applicant's suitability beyond raw academic scores. An approach that prioritizes personal connections or recommendations over demonstrated academic ability and alignment with the university's mission is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This undermines the principle of meritocracy, which is a cornerstone of fair admissions processes. It introduces bias and can lead to the admission of less qualified candidates, thereby compromising the academic standards and reputation of Ahfad University for Women. Such an approach disregards the established guidelines of an entrance examination, designed to provide an objective measure of suitability. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the specific institution's mission, values, and admission criteria. Professionals must prioritize approaches that are fair, transparent, and aligned with regulatory requirements. This involves evaluating candidates based on a range of relevant factors, ensuring that the assessment methods are designed to identify individuals who will succeed academically and contribute positively to the institution. When faced with a specific entrance exam framework, the primary directive is to adhere strictly to its stipulated evaluation criteria. Question 16. The control framework reveals that Ahfad University for Women places a high value on academic integrity and original thought during its entrance examination process. Considering this, which of the following approaches best reflects the expected conduct of an applicant? Option A. Submitting a well-researched essay that synthesizes information from various academic journals and online resources, with all sources meticulously cited according to standard academic conventions. Option B. submitting a project that was completed by a group of friends for a previous academic year, with minor modifications to the content. Option C, submitting a friend's previous assignment that was graded highly, with only the applicant's name added to it. Option D, submitting an essay that heavily relies on paraphrased content from a single online article, without any explicit mention of the source. The correct answer is A, submitting a well-researched essay that synthesizes information from various academic journals and online resources, with all sources meticulously cited according to standard academic conventions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct, which are paramount for admission to Ahfad University for Women. The university's entrance exam aims to assess not only academic aptitude, but also the candidate's commitment to honesty and responsible scholarship. Navigating this requires careful judgment to distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable practices in academic settings. The correct approach involves recognizing that submitting work that is not one's own, even if it is a common practice in some informal contexts, directly violates the principles of academic honesty expected by Ahfad University for Women. This approach aligns with the university's regulatory framework, which implicitly, and often explicitly, mandates originality and integrity in all submitted work. Ethical justification stems from the fundamental principle of respecting intellectual property and the value of genuine learning. Submitting a friend's previous assignment without proper attribution or adaptation is an incorrect approach. This constitutes plagiarism, a serious academic offense that undermines the learning process and devalues the efforts of the original author. The regulatory failure lies in the direct violation of academic integrity policies. Presenting a project that was completed by a group without clearly indicating the individual contributions is also an incorrect approach. While collaboration is often encouraged, misrepresenting individual effort within a group project is a form of academic dishonesty. This fails to meet the expectation of transparency regarding one's own work. Finally, relying heavily on online sources without citing them appropriately is another incorrect approach. This is a form of plagiarism, as it appropriates the ideas and words of others without giving them due credit. The regulatory framework of any academic institution, including Ahfad University for Women, requires proper citation to acknowledge sources and demonstrate scholarly practice. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a clear understanding of the university's academic integrity policies. Before submitting any work, a candidate should ask themselves, is this entirely my own work? Have I properly acknowledged all sources of information and ideas? If the answer to either question is no, then the work needs to be revised to ensure compliance with academic honesty standards. This proactive approach prevents potential disqualification and fosters a commitment to ethical academic conduct. Question 17. Research into the admissions process for the Ahfad University for Women's entrance exam has revealed that a prospective applicant is seeking advice on how to prepare. The applicant is particularly anxious about the essay section and has asked for specific topics that are likely to be covered or for examples of past essay questions to practice with. As an individual involved in the admissions process, how should you respond to ensure fairness and uphold the integrity of the exam? Option A. Provide general guidance on the types of skills the essay section assesses, such as critical thinking and argumentation, and suggest broad subject areas that may be relevant, without revealing specific questions or topics. Option B. Share a list of specific essay topics that have appeared on previous entrance exams and advise the applicant to focus their preparation on these areas. Option C. Offer to review and provide direct feedback on the applicant's essay drafts, suggesting specific points to include and arguments to make. Option D. Suggest that the applicant seek out unofficial online forums where past exam questions are often shared by previous candidates. The correct answer is A. Provide general guidance on the types of skills the essay section assesses, such as critical thinking and argumentation, and suggest broad subject areas that may be relevant, without revealing specific questions or topics. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and ensure a fair admissions process, as mandated by Ahfad University for Women's entrance exam regulations. The challenge lies in balancing the need to assist a prospective student with the imperative to uphold the university's standards and prevent any form of academic dishonesty. Careful judgment is required to discern between providing legitimate guidance and offering undue assistance that could compromise the integrity of the entrance exam. The correct approach involves providing general information about the exam structure and content areas without revealing specific questions or answers. This upholds academic integrity by ensuring all candidates are assessed on their own merit and knowledge. It aligns with the ethical guidelines of Ahfad University for women's entrance exam, which implicitly require fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants. Providing such general guidance respects the university's commitment to a rigorous and unbiased selection process. An incorrect approach that involves sharing past exam questions or specific topics that are likely to appear is professionally unacceptable. This constitutes academic dishonesty and violates the core principles of fair assessment. It creates an unfair advantage for the individual receiving the information, undermining the efforts of other candidates, and compromising the validity of the entrance exam results. Such an action would directly contravene the spirit and likely the letter of Ahfad University for women's entrance exam regulations concerning fairness and integrity. Another incorrect approach, offering to complete parts of the application or provide direct answers to essay questions, is also a severe ethical breach. This goes beyond mere guidance and enters the realm of facilitating fraud. It misrepresents the applicant's true abilities and knowledge, which is detrimental to both the applicant's future academic success and the university's reputation. This action directly violates the principles of honesty and integrity expected in any educational institution's admissions process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's admission policies and ethical codes. When faced with a request that borders on or crosses into academic dishonesty, the professional should 1. Identify the core ethical principles at stake: fairness, integrity, honesty. 2. Assess the request against these principles and the specific regulations of the Ahfad University for women's entrance exam. 3. Decline any request that compromises academic integrity or fairness. 4. Offer appropriate, ethical, and general assistance within the established boundaries. 5. Document the interaction if necessary, especially if the request is persistent or problematic. Question 18. Strategic planning requires a careful evaluation of proposed changes to university entrance examinations to ensure they align with the institution's mission and ethical commitments. Ahfad University for Women is considering introducing a new aptitude test as part of its admissions process. Which of the following approaches best reflects a responsible and ethically sound strategic planning process for this proposed change? Option A. Implement the new aptitude test immediately to streamline the admissions process and attract a more diverse range of applicants, assuming it will inherently improve the quality of the student intake. Option B. Rely on the subjective opinions of current faculty members about what constitutes a good student and incorporate their preferences into the design of the new aptitude test without further empirical validation. Option C. Introduce the aptitude test as a supplementary component without clearly defining its weighting in the overall admission score, allowing for flexibility in interpretation by admissions officers. Option D. Conduct a thorough pilot study of the new aptitude test with a representative sample of prospective students, analyze the results for predictive validity and potential biases, and consult with admissions experts and faculty before full implementation. The correct answer is A. Implement the new aptitude test immediately to streamline the admissions process and attract a more diverse range of applicants, assuming it will inherently improve the quality of the student intake. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's strategic goals with the ethical imperative to ensure fair and equitable access to education, as mandated by the Ahfad University for Women's founding principles and any relevant Sudanese educational regulations. The decision-making process must be grounded in a commitment to meritocracy and inclusivity, avoiding any practices that could inadvertently create barriers for deserving candidates. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of the admissions criteria to ensure they are objective, relevant to academic success, and do not disproportionately disadvantage any group of applicants. This aligns with the ethical responsibility of educational institutions to promote equal opportunity and uphold academic integrity. Specifically, It requires an analysis of whether the proposed changes, such as introducing a new aptitude test, are demonstrably predictive of student success at Ahfad, and if the test itself is culturally sensitive and accessible to all prospective students. This approach prioritizes fairness and evidence-based decision-making, reflecting a commitment to the university's mission and any applicable Sudanese educational policies that emphasize equitable access and quality education. An incorrect approach would be to implement the new aptitude test without rigorous validation or consideration of its potential impact on diverse applicant pools. This could lead to discriminatory outcomes, violating the ethical principle of fairness and potentially contravening any Sudanese regulations that prohibit discriminatory admissions practices. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed of implementation over thoroughness, making changes without consulting relevant stakeholders or considering the long-term implications for the university's reputation and student body diversity. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and ethical consideration. A third incorrect approach would be to base the decision on anecdotal evidence or personal biases rather than objective data and established best practices in admissions. This undermines the principle of meritocracy and can lead to unfair selection processes. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem and its potential consequences. This involves gathering data, consulting relevant policies and ethical guidelines, and seeking input from diverse stakeholders. The process should then involve evaluating potential solutions against established criteria, such as fairness, effectiveness, and alignment with institutional values. Finally, the chosen solution should be implemented with a plan for monitoring its impact and making adjustments as needed. Question 19. Comparative studies suggest that the evaluation of prospective students for specialized women's universities requires a nuanced approach. Considering the mission of Ahfad University for women and the regulatory framework governing higher education in Sudan, which of the following approaches best reflects a comprehensive and ethically sound admissions process for entrance exam candidates? Option A. A selection process primarily driven by letters of recommendation from prominent individuals, prioritizing perceived social standing and influence. Option B. A comprehensive review that assesses academic transcripts, entrance exam performance, personal essays, and relevant extracurricular activities, with a particular emphasis on the applicant's alignment with the university's mission and values. Option C. An admissions process heavily weighted towards the number and prestige of extracurricular activities, assuming these indicate leadership potential and a well-rounded individual. Option D. A strict adherence to entrance exam scores as the sole determinant of admission, ensuring a purely meritocratic selection based on quantitative performance. The correct answer is B. A comprehensive review that assesses academic transcripts, entrance exam performance, personal essays, and relevant extracurricular activities, with a particular emphasis on the applicant's alignment with the university's mission and values. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of higher education admissions, specifically within the context of Ahfad University, for women's unique mission and regulatory environment. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and ethically sound approach to evaluating diverse applicant profiles, ensuring fairness while adhering to the university's specific admission criteria and any relevant Sudanese educational regulations. Careful judgment is required to balance academic merit with other factors that may be deemed important by the institution. The correct approach involves a holistic review that considers academic achievements, personal qualities, and alignment with the university's mission. This is justified by the ethical imperative to provide equal opportunity and to select candidates who are most likely to succeed and contribute to the university community. Adherence to Ahfad University for women's stated admission policies and any applicable Sudanese Ministry of Higher Education guidelines would be paramount. This approach respects the individual applicant's journey and potential, moving beyond a purely quantitative assessment. An approach that solely prioritizes standardized test scores, while seemingly objective, fails to acknowledge the diverse educational backgrounds and potential of applicants. It risks excluding promising candidates who may excel in other areas or whose circumstances have not allowed them to achieve exceptionally high scores. This could be ethically problematic if it leads to a lack of diversity or overlooks talent. An approach that focuses exclusively on extracurricular activities without sufficient consideration for academic preparedness would be a regulatory failure. Universities are mandated to ensure a certain level of academic rigor, and admitting students who are not academically equipped to handle the curriculum would undermine the educational standards and potentially lead to higher dropout rates, which could be viewed negatively by regulatory bodies overseeing higher education quality. An approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or personal recommendations without a structured evaluation framework is professionally unsound. While recommendations can offer insights, they are subjective and can be influenced by personal biases. A robust admissions process requires objective criteria and systematic evaluation to ensure fairness and transparency, as expected by educational regulatory bodies. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the institution's mission and admission criteria, a commitment to fairness and equity, and a systematic approach to evaluating all aspects of an applicant's profile. Professionals should consult relevant university policies and any applicable national educational regulations to ensure compliance and ethical conduct. Question 20. The control framework reveals that Ahfad University for Women's entrance examination aims to identify candidates who will not only succeed academically, but also contribute positively to the university's unique environment. Which of the following approaches best aligns with this objective and the principles of fair and comprehensive university admissions? Option A. A rigorous assessment of a broad range of academic competencies, personal attributes, and alignment with the university's mission and values. Option B. Exclusive reliance on a single, high-stakes standardized test score that measures only immediate academic recall. Option C. Prioritizing applicants based solely on their previous academic transcripts without any current aptitude assessment. Option D. A subjective evaluation based on informal interviews and personal recommendations without structured criteria. Correct answer is A. A rigorous assessment of a broad range of academic competencies, personal attributes, and alignment with the university's mission and values. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of university admissions within the specific regulatory and ethical context of Ahfad University for Women. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate method for assessing an applicant's suitability, balancing academic potential with the university's mission and values, all while adhering to the guidelines governing entrance examinations. Careful judgment is required to select an approach that is both fair and effective in identifying candidates who will thrive at Ahfad. The correct approach involves a comprehensive evaluation that considers a range of factors beyond just a single test score. This aligns with the principles of holistic admissions, which are often implicitly or explicitly encouraged by educational institutions to ensure a diverse and capable student body. For Ahfad University for Women, this would likely involve assessing not only academic aptitude, but also an applicant's alignment with the university's mission, potential for contribution to the academic community, and personal attributes that suggest a capacity for success in their chosen field of study. This approach is ethically sound, as it promotes fairness and equal opportunity by not solely relying on a potentially narrow measure of intelligence or preparedness. It also respects the unique context of a women's university by seeking candidates who will benefit from and contribute to its specific environment. An approach that focuses exclusively on a single standardized test score is ethically flawed because it risks overlooking qualified candidates who may excel in other areas or have had different educational opportunities. This narrow focus can lead to a less diverse student body and may not accurately predict long-term success or engagement with the university's broader goals. Relying solely on past academic performance without considering current aptitude or potential is also problematic, as it fails to account for growth and development. Furthermore, an approach that prioritizes subjective impressions without a structured framework for assessment can introduce bias and inconsistency, undermining the fairness of the admissions process. Professionals involved in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the institution's mission, values, and admission criteria. This involves identifying the key attributes and competencies sought in prospective students. Subsequently, a multifaceted assessment strategy should be designed, incorporating various evaluation methods that can reliably measure these desired attributes. Regular review and calibration of these methods are crucial to ensure fairness, validity, and adherence to ethical standards and any specific regulatory guidelines governing university entrance examinations.